someone's still going to win, and it might be if just
I know
half the field, if just about half the field is playing badly, with golf, you can easily say, oh, the course must be hard. They're all playing bad. You know what I mean? It all kind of comes back to earth a little bit.
Sergio has been like, I can't wait to leave this place. Rah, 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 rah.
Yeah. That's right. Good evening. Happy Tuesday here from Divots and Pivots. I am Andrew LeDuc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard. And to my left, my right, depending on which way your screen is oriented right now, as always, Bud Copeland making that other side of the screen look better. It seems like you might be having some technical difficulties at the moment, actually. I'm not sure if can you hear me, Bud?
I can hear everything.
Okay.
I'm gesticulating wildly to see where our screen names are. And do we need to hire another intern?
Another blunder. There it is. For those, I also what's that phrase called? Moonlight as Mr. Mallet of Sophisticated Station over on TSS Fantasy. So when I record for that, I have nothing on the screen, so I apologize.
Juggling everything. I mean,
everything.
A regular 21st century Renaissance man. No, man, I'm excited. It's a good night. It's Tuesday. Boring as shit in the golf world. So I'm super excited to have Zach Helfand joining us today.
Yes.
And fans of the show might have heard the story already. Fans of the show, quote unquote, fans of the show. In other words, relatives and people who are married to us. Might have heard the story, and we'll recap it a little bit. So there's a little bit of a history between the two of us. I say it like he owes me money. It'd probably be the other way around, if anything. But it was really, really kind of small worldish to run into him. And then a couple weeks later, this magnificent article in the New Yorker drops. And it was deep, it was layered, and I can't wait to kind of peel that onion with him and catch up a little bit about golf. But first things first, the Pats are back this week. We're going to pivot early, and I want to get this one out of the way. You're the resident. Did you get a haircut?
Today. Thank you for noticing.
I'm
blushing a little.
Let's not get carried away. I'm on heightened awareness about haircuts right now because my wife just recently got a haircut. So now it's kind of like when you move to New England and you meet your first person who owns a Subaru. Next thing you know, you see Subarus everywhere, and that's just kind of how it is. So now I'm highly aware of haircuts. I even got my own haircut.
Do you want that at Kelsey Piper Golf?
We'll go ahead and get that. We'll get that out of the way early too. Shouts to the folks at Piper.golf. And when you do go, make sure you drop DivPiv in the promo code. Let them know we sent you. When in doubt, pipe it. And once again,
the promo code DIVPIV.
Which I have screwed up before because we did the live thing and then we had DivPiv live at live. And I was going to go into a geeky Eminem riff there, but we're going to pivot early real quick. I want to get your take. People know I'm a born again New Englander, originally from down south. Came up here as a camp kind of thing. Oh my God, Bud mentioned summer camp again.
There it is, folks. For all you betting folks out there, if you had the over under of 1 minute 39 seconds for Bud to mention camp on this show tonight, you are a winner.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that was coming early. But anyways, I actually fell ass backwards into Tom Brady long ago, my family being a Michigan family, everybody but me. I'm the black sheep who went to a big Southern SEC football school. And so I love me some New England Patriots football, but I never played a snap of football in my life. Sure. And you being the fantasy guru that you are, I didn't even use air quotes that time. That's how much I've grown to respect your opinion in this space. I want to know what's fresh for Pats Nation this week.
What's fresh for Pats Nation is when we get the Jets on tap 1 o'clock Sunday, and this is a weird situation.
It's a weirdly big game.
A weirdly big game because the Pats are still in last with a slightly winning record here at 5-4. Right now, if the playoffs were to start today, every single team in the AFC East, all four, get into the playoffs, which I'd be curious to know if has ever happened in the history of football. Probably not, because it's only because of the newer playoff format. And I highly doubt that's actually going to happen. I don't see the Patriots making the playoffs unless they can get a couple more division wins here. But the key for the Patriots is going to be, can they avoid what they did last year and absolutely suck after the bye week? They came out of the bye week last year, something that they've always been known for. under Bill Belichick coming out ready and really starting their season then, they kind of last 2 years have kind of fallen off and faded after the bye week. So I'm curious to see how they come out of this week of rest and how they attack this division now.
Fallen off and faded sounds like a great emo band from the early 2000s. I loved their early stuff, but then when they got into the studio, they just got too big. They faded off, so to speak. But
thanks for stopping by Sports Scramble Podcast. Welcome in for the first time. Definitely come back again.
Shouts. No, that's good to know. I'm not much of a realist. You've heard me say before, I still think that we're gonna sneak into the playoffs here somehow.
It's possible.
This weekend could be that right, like you said. We'll know we'll know after this weekend if they come out lollygagging around, then we know what the struggle we have is in front of us. But how fallible are the Bills, and could Josh Allen have a head thing going on?
The Bills are, here's what the Bills are gettable right now. I think the only team in the AFC East who has a chance of winning the division other than them still is the Dolphins at this point. Because the Dolphins are just looking good, and they are, tied for first place right now in the division. So the Dolphins have a chance. The Jets won't do it, and the Patriots are not going to be able to do it either. But look, the Bills could come out and lose the division this year because I'm still worried about this UCL injury for Josh Allen. I think he played this week, which was a risk. To this point, the team has escaped with it not affecting their season, but he had to have been just doped up on painkillers or whatever to numb that elbow. And I still think it's just a risk for him to be out there. Luckily, they have the bye this week for him to get a little rest. But I think it was a big risk for him to be playing last week because it wasn't going to take much to really disrupt that elbow further into what could be, season-ending, Tommy John surgery, essentially.
And then you pile on top the way he has zero regard for his body, that run during overtime where he's like dragging guys through. I mean, this is a quarterback and he's dragging grown men through the secondary after running 30, 35 yards. And it's cold outside. I mean, I'm a little Charmin soft myself. Like I said, never played it down in the sport, but the guy is just a freaking monster beast. He's a little Tebow-esque out there when he runs. There's that SEC bias showing through.
There you go.
And speaking of SEC bias, don't sleep on Kentucky this weekend, Georgia fans. All the Georgia fans that tune in. That massive crossover. There is a big crossover in the golf and Georgia world. Guys like Bubba Kisner.
Now, is that you as a fan hyping yourself up for this game because it's not as exciting as the last few weeks for them, or
1,000,000%? It's
okay.
So I love here. Okay, one thing about college football that I don't think that NFL fans and New England fans get, and I don't mean that in a snotty way. I mean everybody I talked to who grew up here or went to college here, they're like, man, I would have loved to gone to like a big football school or just gone to a game. And I'm like, I get it. The way that Southern football fans talk about their coach is if like they're on the team.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I was about to go right into, Coach Smart last week after the game was talking about how it's tough to win on the road in the SEC. And I came that close to doing it without qualifying where my brain was that I'm not actually one of those creatures. I'm kind of just I'm sitting in, I'm the local yokel, so to speak. But that is exactly what he went with, which is, this is cool. We won the East, blah, 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 but we're not thinking anything more than next weekend because Kentucky did. When Kentucky's wounded, they came out the gates early in the season, hot, 4-0, 5-0, something like that. They were the talk of the town. They were going to challenge Tennessee, and then Tennessee did what they did, and Kentucky'd. And then when you lose to a team like Vanderbilt, who was on a 26-game SEC losing streak, you got nothing to lose anything after that. Like you're a rabid dog who knows they're rabid and knows that the end is near. So you're just going to bite as many things as you can on the way down. And that's what you're always concerned about. But I think we got the 3:30 slot. I haven't actually looked at it. Been a little busy with life. And so, I mean, I think if Georgia can get to Atlanta 12-0, I hate always using the thing like, well, even if we lose that, we could probably get in the playoff. But the reality would be if we go 12-0, we're probably going to, end up in the playoff, even if we lose to LSU, which don't sleep on LSU and Brian Kelly. Shocker. He showed up and now all of a sudden he's talking like he's the top dog. I mean, pump your brakes there, Bubba. You did lose to Florida State. We won't go any further, but LSU fan here, looking forward to that matchup in Atlanta. Bet you are. I mean, no, I mean, I would be too. You know, they're all the expectations on Georgia. That's what I always say. I used to love it.
I just like your simple, quick answer to that. I bet you are. It was like so brutal in how simple it was.
Well, because I've been on the other side of this. I've been Georgia going at LSU. Joe Burrows. I was tweeting away, talking away. I feed me Joe Burrows. Give me that lot. Yeah, inch by loving inch. No pun intended. We took all of Joe Burrow. So I mean, I've been on the other side of it. That's why I was being sincere. Like, no, I know you are. I bet you are, because it's all upside. If you walk out of there 8-3. You might have an outside shot at a big bowl, but really it's going to be probably like the Citrus Bowl is what we would have called it back in the day. Well, this enough college football.
Well, no, not so fast, because this area has had a little bit of excitement in college football this past weekend. That's right. You know, my BC Eagles, who I think at the time were like 2-6 or whatever, something. I don't even know how many games they played, honestly, because they've been horrendous. Come out with a last second walk-off win with a backup quarterback over the number 16th ranked NC State, 21-20. And you know what? That's where their season is probably going to hit their peak this year. I don't see how it can get any better than that game for them. Unless this new quarterback, this backup quarterback who's in for the injured starter, I can't even tell you his name, unless he is somehow this spark that the offense needed. Who knows?
Was Matt Ryan the last BSD to come out of BC?
Yeah, he led them. That was in 2007. 2007, he led them to as high as number 2 in the country.
Two things: A, he's a stunningly handsome man. Like he's not real. I don't think he actually has to shave. I think he just wakes up and it just like sweats off anything that he grows overnight. But B, how about Jeff Saturday just throwing it back in there?
So look, I'm not surprised that Jeff Saturday came out and got a first win with the Colts. Like,
the adrenaline,
there's enough adrenaline in that storyline and his history there for that to carry through for one win. I get that. We'll see what happens here on out. I'm not going to hate on Jeff Saturday. I'm not saying he can't be a good coach, but I've literally never seen him coach anything, so we don't know.
No, but I as somebody who I'm a straight up leech in the sports world. I feed off of some of this stuff. Like I'm a golf fanatic, but at the same time, I'm a sports fan, and some of it has to do with the infighting. And just last night, seeing Steve Young and the guys before Monday Night Football kick around the code and this like head coaching thing, and then to have Pretty Boy Floyd say, "Well, let's also remember this is the interim job, so it's not like everybody knows." And that's what Jeff Saturday even said. He goes, "I might suck at this, and I'll be out of here." He's like, "I might be okay, and then maybe we have a conversation." I like that attitude. I think in 2022, for somebody to invoke the code. In the problem with, and the only problem I have is the connotation of it. I get what he's saying. Actually, there's a proper channel. There's a way this works, and not like a way it works as in like you're paying into the mob, but like if you're going to be a properly trained head coach, you should probably go through certain channels and trials and tribulations. But I also think there are exceptions to the rule. Mm-hmm. And when Jeff Saturday said something like, "I've led men in the locker room, I've played alongside Hall of Famers, I've been intimately close to leadership, especially in this organization," and Jim Irsay, who talk about a good, ever since he got pulled over with blow in the car, he ran out of F's to give at that point. And ever since then, he's been on a little bit of a tear. First, he's taking shots at Snyder, which, hey, we know the Redskins, did they announce a buyer for that yet? Is it gone?
I haven't heard, unless I missed it, but I don't think a buyer's been announced yet.
That thing's got to be going for $5 or $6 billion, maybe even $7 billion. That just makes my stomach churn. And now all of a sudden, he's kind of doing a little, fungulo. If I even did that right, some Italian's going to tweet at me and be like, "Dude, don't back that off, bro."
Great, you just lost us our entire Italy audience.
That's a big contingent on the north side of Boston.
I know.
I think it's gonna be a fun story to follow. It's gonna be a fun story to watch. And one more fun story to mention before we bring in Zach from good God, what the heck is that?
I don't know. Zach Helfand, whatever it was, you just did it on live screen there. So
you were about to say national television. And
I was going to say live. I was going to say live TV, not national TV, but live TV. And I was like, we're not really on TV here, but okay.
I love that aspiration. But I have a little bit of a love affair with a gentleman named Akshay Bhatia, and he's a young left-handed 20-year-old golfer on the Korn Ferry Tour. He Monday qualified for this week's RSM down in Hilton Head, which is kind of like a Harbor Town Light, if you will. It was created
Yeah.
back in 2010 as one of those filler events in the fall, and now it's still around. We'll see if it sticks around in this new super season in 24. But we love this kid. A, he's lefty. B, if you think Will Zalatoris is thin, this kid looks up to, that's what he has pinned up in his locker to like beef up to. He's this thin, lefty, wears glasses. And he got his girlfriend by sliding into her DMs before a tournament in Texas, and now she's on the bag for him. He won his first start. He's just a fun guy to follow on social media as well. So shouts to the boy Akshay. I hope he does well this week.
Yeah, congratulations to him. And then, I think from there we are going to kind of turn this back into our golf conversation. Because like we said, we're about to bring Zach in here to really dive into his article, Will the Saudis and Donald Trump Save Golf or Wreck It? Which was, like you said earlier, a great read. But I do want to, as we bring him in here, I do want to start us off with Rory. Rory just seemingly, once again, maybe just drawing it deeper, but drawing that line in the sand. And I think what's interesting here is that it wasn't like we were thinking before where they were closing the door to working with Liv. He just made it abundantly clear what it was going to take to work with Liv, and he's calling for Greg Norman to step down. So I want to get your thoughts, and then as we bring Zach in here, I want to get his thoughts as well. So, Zach Helfand, welcome to the Divots and Pivots show. Thank you for joining us, first of all.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, anytime. It was a pleasure to meet you out at Live Boston down in Bolton, and I know Bud enjoyed the rekindling of that.
Rekindling's a little bit of an understatement. I thought I was being messed with because I was sitting there, I was fanboying out about seeing somebody famous, and then I don't know if you said my full name or just did you say your name's Bud? And I mean, like stomach drop, head started spinning, and went through all the emotions. Zach, how are you, man? It was good to see you.
I'm good. So you were talking to Ari Fleischer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
I was like, so when I was in college during 9/11, right? And so what was every college kid, every poli-sci major anyways, is tuned into White House briefings. Back then we had to actually dork out and tune into C-SPAN. You kids these days had it easy. But so that's who I was like, I'm sitting there, I'm like eyeballing him and watching him kind of chuckle at the country club adjacent guys who are a whole thing we can dive into. I'd love to get your opinion about them because you've been front and center. But yes, that's exactly what it was. And then I got the chutzpah to say, "Are you Ari Fleischer?" Talked to him for a couple minutes. He was super generous and sweet and kind and gracious and all that kind of stuff. Very Socratic in his in his answers, which I appreciated. But then please, I want to pass the talking stick. What was that like? How did that come from your side?
Okay, so my back is turned to you and Ari, and I
think we lost you there for Zach. Just the audio.
We still have the money. We still have the money maker. So it's fine.
We still got the face.
I like this though. There's a cliffhanger going on. My back is turned, and
it looks like maybe a pair of headphones died.
All right, how was this?
Okay, we got you there.
Okay, took out my headphones. So cliffhanger. So, my back is turned, so I don't know who you're talking to. I just hear, "Hey, my name is Bud Copeland." And I don't know many Bud Copelands. I think I only know one. And it's kind of the name that sticks with you. And I remember you, of course. You were my camp counselor. So when I got hit in the head with a baseball bat. You were the baseball coach. So, you don't forget that. And it wasn't Bud didn't do it. Bud didn't do it. It was
I was going to say, I think we were in an intercamp competition or some game. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
You were way calmer than I was. I'm squeamish to begin with. So Bud Copeland, yes, sir. I appreciate that. I'm glad that stuck with you.
So I turn around and I recognize you. And so you're talking to Ari Fleischer. So I'm kind of just standing around and I'm kind of in the peripheral vision of Ari Fleischer, I'm sure. So he probably thinks that I'm sticking around to talk to him, but I'm not. I'm sticking around to talk to Bud. So I was waiting a couple minutes and I was like, that's definitely Bud Copeland. And so I'm wondering if you remember me. So it was funny.
Hey, the name I couldn't have forgotten in a million years. And then the minute you said baseball, I like literally my stomach went through the exact same like dropped moment because I was like, this kid got hit in the back of the head. I was like talking about it to Andrew, and I'm like, he's totally calm about it, and I'm like, no man, you're gonna be okay. And he's like, yeah, I know. And I'm like,
now was it like a full swing?
Were you playing catcher?
I was playing catcher.
Okay.
And it was one of those detached face masks.
Yeah,
like
the old school ones.
So there's like a big opening on the back of your head.
Yeah.
And it was a backswing. I guess some guy just took a really big backswing and just conked me on the back of the head. Okay. And I didn't know what happened. I think there was like maybe like popped it up, and I was trying to take off my mask and look for the pop up or something. I just know there's just blood coming down.
Do you still have a mark on the back of your head?
I still have a little bit of a scar, actually. Yeah, from the
so if you shaved your head, or if heaven forbid the hair fairy visits you the way it's visited me, hence the huge billboard going in and up here, you might see a little bit of a nick mark back there.
There's like a vertical scar going on.
Did you get staples or stitches?
Staples.
Wow, there we go. Yeah, I have heard staples and head wounds just work much better.
It was easy.
Well, I got
the one problem was the nurse was very nice. Got lost. It took us like 2 hours to get to this hospital, kind of like rural Maine.
Rural is a nice way to put it. I ended up living there for about 3 years, like on the property for a while. We will go down memory lane sometime in the future. Zach has agreed to come back and talk to me on a soon-to-launch podcast titled cleverly "This Bud's for You." Man of many talents and few words. So we are going to dive deeper into that because I'd love to go down memory lane and catch up a little bit about that. Find out what happened after you got hit in the head with a baseball bat, and before we ran into each other at Live Bolton. And so, Andrew, do you have any kind of opening questions? Because my first question really is, how did you end up choosing this as a topic in a story to begin with? How did this come about?
So I was just transfixed by Mickelson's comments, the scary motherfuckers comments. Can I say? Okay,
absolutely.
You're all good.
I just did a shot before you got on.
Yeah.
Is that a glass of red wine? Is a little vino there?
It is. I told myself I poured it. It was a new bottle and it tasted awful. So I said, I'm not going to drink this. But then as you start talking and your mouth gets dry, like I guess I'm going to drink this.
Yeah. So Mickelson makes these comments, and you just never see an athlete or really any famous person just kind of say what they're feeling like that. And he thought, there's the whole story. He claims thought he was off the record with Alan Shipman and all that, but we just never see that. And it seemed like that kind of opened the floodgates a little bit. So when I went out and talked with guys on the tour, particularly guys on the tour, they just kind of felt like, probably because Mickelson just started off, like they had just license to let it rip. So I think the honesty is what drew me to it. I mean, there was a lot of elements of, it was this kind of, in the grand scheme of the world, we like golf and we like watching it and we want it to be good, but in the grand scheme of the world, it's kind of small potatoes. But it explained all these other things, kind of like identity politics, and there's geopolitics, and there's like the intra-Gulf War, Cold War between some of these Gulf states. And so it was this little thing that was kind of fun, and people were being really honest, but it helped kind of touch on all these different bigger topics.
Well, and you nailed it there, because I think what is interesting about this is that, and I don't want to jump too far into the article right away, but the biggest call out I had from this but the part about this article I found most interesting was kind of the ties of Live Golf to all these other projects within Saudi Arabia that we're now hearing about, the Line, the Neom project, like all these other like massive things that Saudi Arabia is doing to, I don't know if it's to change the world or to just put themselves on the map as like this innovative tech country. That it was fascinating because I think you described it as almost like an advert, using Live Golf as an advertisement for all these other things.
So the Saudis, for as long as they've been a country, essentially have been totally reliant on oil.
Yes,
their entire economy basically is based around oil, and historically there's not been much to do there. Women were you got to cover up and can't drive for a long time. Don't have many rights at all. It's the middle of the desert. There's nothing to do. You can't drink. There was no cinemas for a while. There were some of these golf courses that were they were called sand courses. You carry around a little square of AstroTurf.
I told him I was talking about
little
these the other week.
We just talked about that. Yeah.
And they don't. I think some of these exist elsewhere. Like you can find some in the U.S. on kind of beachy coastal areas, but not in the same way that they're in Saudi Arabia. The greens are the way they works is you carry around your little AstroTurf, and the greens are slicked with an oil substance, so you can putt.
Sounds fun.
There's not much to do. So they now realize that the Crown Prince, who's Mohammed bin Salman, MBS.
MBS, yeah.
He views himself as this innovator and this modernizer, and he realizes that the days of subsisting on oil profits are numbered. The world is getting away from this. Everyone's going towards renewables. So he is very rapidly trying to remake the Saudi economy. So one thing that they want to do is attract Western business people to invest in the country, but also to come set up headquarters in the country. But how do they do that when there's not much to do? They want tourists to come in the country, but how do they get tourists when there's not much to do and you're in the middle of the desert? So they're doing a lot of things. There's Neom, this big mega city that they're building. It's going to be an entertainment capital. There are other projects that they have that are geared around sports or amusement parks. They're opening movie theaters. Probably eventually you're going to be able to drink legally. Already now you kind of can, a little bit kind of don't ask, don't tell in that kind of way. And one of the other things that they're doing, they say, what do wealthy Western people like? They like golf. So they're building a lot of golf courses. Greg Norman's building a golf course, among others. And one way to kind of, as a big billboard essentially because most people don't associate Saudi Arabia with golf. Live kind of functions as this big billboard. So a lot of people thought that this was what they call sports washing, that Mohammed bin Salman, who murdered and dismembered a journalist and who's been waging a war in Yemen and has been doing a lot of things that a lot of people find unpalatable. A lot of people thought that this was a way to
They would fall in that category of things that we quote unquote don't condone.
Yeah.
I want to go ahead and get okay.
Yeah. Dismemberment, we're on the record, not good.
Yes, on the record. Divots and pivots, not a fan.
Yeah. So a lot of people thought that this was a way to launder his reputation. And what a lot of people that I talked to said that just doesn't sound right. A lot of people that know MBS said that that's not really his aim. He's given up on that. He knows it's never really going to happen. So really what I think this is, it's like an advertisement for the country. And maybe some people would say it's kind of sports washing in a different sense. But really it's when they say Saudi Arabia, they have a horrible record on human rights and they have a golf league. That's kind of a win for them because Saudi Arabia and golf are being mentioned in the same sentence, and maybe it'll get some people to come to the country and start playing on these brand new golf courses at these brand new resorts that they're building. And
as far as a money-making entity, I agree. What you just said and what you wrote in your article absolutely makes sense in the fact that I've been talking about this too. They want to sell these teams off. The whole idea is catch attention to this product, almost, and they don't even hide it. You said it in your article. They tell some of the guys in the communication teams told Andrew was like, "We're a startup. We get to do the whole shorts FU attitude. We want to run like a startup." Because they want to make it clear they have no intention of there being Live 2025 with this team and crew running it, right? Build it up, get LeBron or somebody to be bored one day and go, what are the Fireballs? Who they got? All right, because that way also, if you do all of a sudden have 12 different entities owning these teams, MBS is no longer the central figure, and they get to do it that way and move on. The thing that struck me is the way you kind of positioned it, and I wanted to see if you could kind of not dumb it down, but give me the cup of coffee explanation for the geopolitical game that's being played here, and who's kind of given who the one-upsmanship, and in your assessment, where does it stand? I mean, is MBS achieving his goal here? Is there longevity to it? Because everybody wants to know, is Liv going to actually, God, the bad pun.
Here it comes.
So like a Frisbee in the desert, you knew it was coming. But, the geopolitical game that you put out there, people forget about that it's not as simple as, like you said, sports washing. When you get to these positions in some of these levels in society, ego's not even a thing anymore. Feelings aren't, I'm not gonna say feelings aren't real as in they don't have feelings, but they don't play the same registry that they do in your life and mine, so to speak, because they do. It's kind of like Peter Thiel and Tiger Woods have more in common than me and Tiger Woods, but I'm a better golfer than Peter Thiel. So MBS is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers in the media, so to speak. Is he doing it well, or where is he? Where is he in his game?
That's a good question. I mean, if you look at it, he's kind of got two aims. As far as we can tell, he's never spoken on this publicly, so we're kind of extrapolating, right?
Yeah, we're deducing what we can from.
Yeah. But I've talked to people that know him and people that kind of know their strategy. So the two aims are what we just talked about is they want to establish Saudi Arabia as like a tourist destination, and golf is one of the ways to do that. The second aim, which a lot of people don't give them credit for, but I actually think is a legitimate aim of theirs, is they want to make money. They have this big sovereign wealth fund. They're pumping all their oil money into this sovereign wealth fund, and they're using it to invest in electric car companies, to try to build like a coffee industry in Saudi Arabia, coffee producing industry.
What are they not trying to do?
Yeah, they bought Newcastle, the English Premier League soccer team, and some people think that that's also a vanity project, but that could also be lucrative. So a lot of people think that they're not in this to make money. This is just sports washing. I think they actually are hoping and expecting to make money. A lot of people are very skeptical of their ability to make money just because they're spending so much money. Mm-hmm. So I would say from the first standpoint, the tourist destination, the advertising, Saudi Arabia and golf, I'd say they're achieving their aims. I mean, it's been very buzzy. It's been written about a ton. It's been talked about a ton. We're talking about it right now.
I was about to say.
I would say that they've achieved that. The money making, for as much as we've all talked about it, not a lot of people are watching it. And they're hoping to sell off these franchises. Someone's going to come and buy it and want to buy the fireballs. People are going to pay money because it's cool to, own a team of four.
It's cool to own things. I was on that. It's cool. Yeah. It's cool to say, like, I own a sports franchise.
Yeah. Phil Mickelson plays for me. That's going to be attractive for people. But at the end of the day, Rory McIlroy put it like this. He said, at the end of the day, it's all about the economics of the league. And right now, that league has no economics. They have no
eyeballs.
Money. Yeah, they need more people to watch, and they might get there. And they've gotten a pretty impressive group of players in 1 year. But the market is saying we don't care about this, and they need that to change.
I'd like to think that I'm an average sports fan, but an above average golf fan. And the thing that you touched on is this aspect of it is an exhibition. All right. Pat Perez is the person I have a little bit of a bone to pick on this, because he keeps going back to, exhibitions don't pay $4 million. And I keep going back to, no, that's actually the definition of what an exhibition is. Everybody's going to go home with a little something. The big guys are going to go home with a lot of something, but you're only going home with those checks. There's no prestige, there's no tradition, and you can't manufacture that, right? Like it takes, the Masters wasn't the Masters at first. It was just what it was, an exclusive private little tournament for the rich people to say, pro golfers, you want to come down here and entertain us for a weekend? And it turned into something because of the caliber of play over time. So I just don't see where it can go until they start introducing some sort of quote unquote accountability, to use an overused term, but a little bit of accountability there, a little bit of, if I fall flat on my face, there's something at stake. I'm not saying that everybody has to play Hunger Games with their career before our eyes to be entertaining. But you touched on it too. The format's a little confusing. They don't have TV eyes. It doesn't sound like anybody in proper America wants to touch them, and they're not going to spit at them, and they're just going to kind of politely look the other way. So there really was no question in that, other than fascinated by how spot on you were with just kind of like the gut of what everybody's been feeling and talking about. But you took it to a depth of, this is almost, beyond data. So what was the most interesting conversation you had? Because by the way, if you haven't read this piece, if you've never read a New Yorker piece, I encourage you. It's just fascinating style to read. B, this is a golf piece, so I'm highly recommending it. But the part where you're talking about sitting with what's his face on the 18th terrace overlooking, I'm not even gonna attempt names, but you know what I'm talking about.
Imagine Al Sora. Yeah.
Thank you. And what is his role with Liv? What is his role with Liv?
So he's there. There's 2 Saudi executives that basically oversee Liv. One is Yasser Al Rumayyan. He is in MBS's inner circle. He runs the Sovereign Wealth Fund, so the $600 billion fund. Very powerful guy. He also is the chairman of Saudi Aramco, which I think is still the biggest company in the world. It's the Saudi oil company.
Yeah, and they're heavy in the female golf game.
Yeah, and the women golfers speak very highly of their experiences in Saudi Arabia, for the record. So it's a little complicated. But they invested in Liv. They're the ones funding Liv. So Bucks, ultimately stops with Rumayyan. His high school friend is a guy named Majid Al Sorar, who runs all the Saudi golf federations. He's basically the head of golf in Saudi Arabia. So he is doing more of the day-to-day stuff with Liv. He's kind of, if you want to think about it this way, he's kind of Greg Norman's boss. And then Rumayyan is his boss.
So is Greg Norman going to be around next week? This is also what the conversation. I mean, I loved going back and reading your piece because that's the beauty of these kind of things. Time change. We have updates. I mean, is Greg Norman going to be around, or has he done his part?
So I don't know. I don't have any reporting on this one way or the other. That way. So this is all in the realm of speculation.
This is a random tangent thought for me because I saw that teaser rumor out there about the Taco Bell CEO who used to be the TaylorMade CEO. And I'm like, all right, is this just, it's a slow news week and somebody's trying to get something stirred up? So no, Zach, this has nothing to do with the piece. I apologize.
Well, this is always been my speculation personally, is that it seems like they needed someone to get this off the ground, right? And Greg Norman has always been interested in doing this. He's always had a bone to pick with the PGA Tour, and to get this off the ground, you need someone who's going to be aggressive, verging on being kind of an ass. And I think Greg Norman fits the bill really well. He's done what they wanted him to do. I think maybe he could go overboard sometimes, and I think a lot of people would say that the tour is really happy that Greg Norman is there. Because someone else may have done it better and not ruffled as many feathers. But he's been kind of like there, he's taken all the bullets for him. So my supposition has always been he gets it off the ground, and then they turn it into someone who could actually run a business in a more mature, corporate way. And the name that you always hear is the Taco Bell CEO, just because he's always been kind of close to this. He's been in the golf world. So it wasn't a surprise to me when that report came out. I don't know if it's actually going to happen or not. But if I were running it, I mean, that's maybe how I think about it.
If you
nobody asked.
Did you talk to Greg Norman during your travels?
No, I asked and they didn't make him available. So
it's like a smart move.
Yeah.
I hate to circle all the way back, but those comments came out a long time ago. And then you get the story going. What was the first? Because I incorrectly, I shortchanged it. I was like, Zach followed around the Live Tour for a while. I forget that, you were at Eastlake. You were at some of these meetings. What was the first stop for you, either on Live or PGA Tour for this?
It was the Bedminster event, the Live New Jersey Bedminster event. At Trump's golf course. It's right in our backyard. I'm in Brooklyn.
It's fair.
I grew up in New Jersey, so it's nearby. Never been there. It's a nice area, and it's a nice course. There's some tacky elements. You got like a big man-made waterfall, but I expect like fielded, like kind of Trump's apartment everywhere, which is not really golf aesthetic. And it was actually fairly nice. So that was the first stop, and that was a very different experience than Live Bolton, which was more of a traditional golf tournament. And people were there; they were there to see the golf. They turned out well. The Trump national event was not very well attended early in the week, and then later in the week it was just like a Trump rally. It was people weren't even really paying attention to the golf. So it was. I'm glad I saw both because you kind of get the two poles. Two out of the 8 tournaments this year were at Trump courses, and there's gonna be more next year. One, you kind of see both angles where you can kind of see it in its mature form, Bolton, and then you kind of see it like in its weirdest, most political, most polarizing form in Bedminster.
Now, did you get down to Miami for that final event, or because that was after the article was coming out?
That was after, so I'm done.
Because I was curious if that environment was the same. If it was like
I heard similar, but maybe a little bit more golf focused. I think it was a little better attended too, but just from what I heard.
Sure.
I still don't know if I'd go back to one unless just because it doesn't do much for I grew up down in Florida. I went to the Players Championship a lot growing up. Are you, and I can't believe I buried this all the way. What is your personal connection to golf? Do you play?
I play occasionally. I mean, I'm in Brooklyn, so it's not like, golf course haven. There's some golf courses up in the Bronx, but it's a hike to get to. So I used to have my golf clubs under my bed, and I since just put it in my parents' garage because I don't use it. It's taking up space. So I play a couple times a year. I played growing up. I go to golf camp every year. There's 1 week you go to the local course, and
best way to get started.
And you hit on the driving range. So I'm a very casual. My handicap is I would not say that in public on a podcast.
Why I do. My handicap's 13. Go ahead,
Andrew.
Okay, Bud has witnessed it. It might be worse than 13.
No, you have promise, kid. You got to just keep your chin up and your head on a swivel. That's actually, I got to keep my head on a swivel.
Fight the collar.
So after Bedminster, you go. So then after that is when you go to the Tour Championship.
Yeah, I went from Bedminster, then to the Tour Championship, and then.
Would you mind just how was that experience? Talk me through the Tour Championship, because that's the part that me and my mental piece that I keep jumping over, and I mean, you really have to have the whole story beautifully done. You need to kind of show that side of it. So what was it like after going from Bedminster / Trump Rally to, I mean, prim and proper is, I mean, this is as clean of a corporate event as you get, East Lake Country Club in the Tour Championship?
It was like going from kind of amateur to like very, very well established pros. And this is their first year. They kind of pulled this together. So, they'll give them a little bit of leeway there. But the PGA Tour is like, corporate America, their thing. Like, that's where they all get together. There's all these corporate hospitality chalets, as they call it.
I love the chalet.
Yeah, the chalet. When you get off the green, you want to go to the chalet. So I talked to one guy who's like, he's like a CEO who's just kind of swiveling, like much like Andrew's doing now, swirling a glass of red wine as we're talking. It's but very, very well run. Like they have it down. All the Georgia State Troopers are there, and they've been there for years, and they know everyone. They know where to be. They run it very well, and very friendly. Those Georgia State Troopers actually in the driving range.
Can't beat that.
Yeah. So it was a very, very different experience. And I think Liv also wants to be kind of the anarchic, as they say, anarchic and fun, as they put in their marketing materials. So I think they like the contrast between that and the corporate PGA Tour. But the PGA Tour is just like, it's well run.
They have to live above the fray. Jay Monahan has to do some of the things that he's done with some of his non-responses, some of his deference to Tiger. Kind of people think that Tiger coming in rallying the troops, quote unquote, or that's the fourth or fifth quote unquote. I got a Monday morning quarterback that I don't use that many actual quotations when I write, but Tiger swooping in and doing that. Some people say that's him elbowing Jay. And I say, like, that's actually kind of everybody doing their part. Jay needs to live above the fray if the PGA Tour is going to be this behemoth, because the PGA Tour has come a long way. Now, you mentioned something in your article that I pointed out early on too, which is there's some, you don't want to equate MBS and Jack Nicklaus, but there are some of these weird parallels between the start of Liv and the start of the PGA Tour back in the day, right? Can you kind of, and no, for the record, I'm not putting MBS and Jack Nicklaus anywhere. That's, apples and acid, right? But could you real quick just kind of talk us through what you learned in your research or in your kind of digging around for that about the start of the PGA Tour and how that does does or doesn't parallel what we've seen coming up with Liv and their gripes, those players who left and for their reasons.
So a lot of the the PGA Tour defenders, particularly the corporate types who like associating with the tour for a certain image. As some of them put it to me, like, this is sportsmanship and integrity and honor and charity and all that. That is, that is their image. That kind of, as I see in your faces a little bit, it kind of made me say, it's a little cringy, and it's not exactly, a perfect picture of the tour, which for a long time, and golf in general for a long time, excluded Black people, it excluded Jews, it excluded women, it excluded whole classes of people. And still to this day, struggles, as a lot of parts you said, do they still struggle with a lot of the same issues, although they come a long way. So like the example that I picked out was a lot of the tour defenders, especially the players, said, well, this is the league of Arnie and Jack, and those fine, upstanding gentlemen. We don't want to sully their integrity and their reputation. And that also kind of made me think, like, well, Jack Nicklaus is not perfect. I mean, he's
yep.
You can say that out loud. You are in a safe space. It's not there's no like golf Damocles sword that we're just going to say snip it. He's done.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed on the golf course anymore.
We say a lot of things on this show.
Yeah. The example that I cited in the piece was that years ago, he said that he was asked why there are more Black people on the tour. And he said, well, there are biological differences between white people and Black people that make Black people better at basketball and they're not as good at golf, which is the same thing to say. And, it's kind of the long history of like the casual kind of racism that's long been associated with golf. But because of all the corporate sponsorships and because of, I don't know, the fact that you have to keep your own score, and I think also the fact that these are all white guys who look like business people who play it, it's somehow become associated, at least in marketing speak, with like integrity and honor. And I just think that's a little bit.
I by the way, and that's reason 786 to go read this piece, because I think you do eloquently put that kind of dichotomy out there without sullying anything about anybody. It's much more of a pump the brakes and take 30,000, take 3 steps back, so to speak, and take a look at this.
Well, it's a very unbiased article. He points out everything from both sides, is what I think is what you're trying to say. Both sides have issues here. Look, before you get to your next point, but just because we're talking about PGA defenders here, I did want to ask, in your time at all these tournaments, because you've obviously been to more than Bud and I, are the people as I shouldn't say the people, are the fans as kind of taking the personal defense about the PGA versus the Live as strongly as they are like on social media? Because all the keyboard warriors have been out there taking everything so personal when it comes to defending the PGA or defending the Live Tour. Are they acting like that in person? Are people that vocal in person, or are they just out there enjoying themselves and not really caring about it?
I would say for the most part in both tours, most of the people just are out there enjoying themselves.
That's what I figured.
I would say the PGA Tour in particular, people are out there just want to see golf. Live, I was surprised. I thought people were going to want to just check it out and see what it was about. And I think a lot of people were out there checking it out and just seeing for themselves what it was. But there were some people who were like Live proponents, Live defenders, which I was surprised by because it just started. And I don't know when people had the time to develop this sort of allegiance to it. But I was surprised by that. For the most part, though, I think it was the fans don't care that much about it. I think most casual golf fans will look past any of the moral qualms on either side.
Yep.
They just want to see some golf. They're also, I would say, like the PGA Tour crowd was a little bit more staid and proper in like the quote unquote sense of the word. In Bedminster, I ran into a guy who had like porn on his phone.
I saw that. In your
it's not something you encounter every day at any sort of sporting event.
Anywhere.
Yeah. Anywhere in public.
Wait a minute. Were you just like, I mean, how did this come about? Was this guy like, hey, check this out? Or were you just, I mean, was he just standing there, you know, phone in front of him, oblivious to the fact that he's in public, just watching porn?
So this was earlier in the week when there's not big crowds.
Can't
so
believe
there's
the
a
show's
guy
gotten
standing
here.
kind of by himself by the 10th green. And I'm looking to talk to people, you know, I'm there reporting it. And he's looking at his phone. There's no one on the green right now, so he's looking at his phone. So I come up to him and say hi. You know, clicks his phone shut. And we're talking for a little bit, and he wants to show me he wants to show me a picture he took that he's got on his phone. So he unlocks his phone, and I could see what he was looking at as I walked up. And it was porn. Like it was hardcore porn. So I didn't say anything. He doesn't say anything. He just kind of flips away from it. He hopes I didn't see it. He kind of probably knows I saw it. I don't want to say anything. And we move on. And I try to kind of just get away from the conversation quickly.
Dear God, if you're listening to this and that was your phone, would you please reach out to the show? No shame, no judgment here.
No,
we got to get to the bottom of this story.
Yeah, we just want to know your feelings behind that encounter. That's wild, though. I've never heard of that just in public at an event.
Yeah.
No, so it's to that end, not the porn end. I don't want to lump these guys in. The country club adjacent guys. Do you know who I'm talking about? That crew. Yeah. Did you run into them much? Did you observe them much when you were out and about, or because we saw them obviously at Bolton, and I didn't think much of it because at that point, and I'm pretty heavy into the social media game in golf, or no, I just follow everything under the sun. I hadn't run across much of them yet. And now they're all over the place. And, you know, the PGA Tour's even kind of hinted at trying to maybe do their own version of, you know, the back off challenge or whatever on their social media. Does this grow the game in that sense? Does it bring in a new crowd in that way? Or is that like, I mean, is that thin? Is that real thin?
I mean, personally, I think it's thin. I thought it was like a little cringy. It wasn't my cup of tea. You know, it's whenever you're trying that hard to be.
That's not my personal stance. I'm hypothesizing.
Yeah. It's. I think whenever your stated goal is like, we're telling a joke here, we got to be funny. It makes a lot of. You better bring it because the bar gets higher. So it wasn't my cup of tea. I do think there's a following for it, and I do think that younger people, in particular, and people on social media, this is the clips that they see. You know, you're probably gonna watch this, the funny press conference clip over like the long 50-foot putt. So I understand from like a highlight perspective and from a views perspective, I think there could be some legs there.
Yeah, unless you're me who focuses on commenting on Cam Smith's hair while what's her name Gretzky is right next to me.
Paulina bumps into him, and he's trying to chirp Cam Smith about his mullet. Did you get much interaction with any of the players? Were they cool with you? Were they open?
The tour players, yes. The tour players, basically to a man. If I went up to him on the driving range in East Lake during the tour championship and introduced myself and said, would you want to talk? People talked, and we're pretty open and we're pretty smart for the most part. Live was harder. Live, as I learned halfway through reporting it, from Andrew Beaton at the Wall Street Journal reported this, that in a lot of their contracts they have to get Live approval to talk to the media. Usually, the way golf reporting works is, you know, they're their own people. They're individual contractors. And if they want to talk to you, they can talk to you. If they want to tell you to take a hike, they'll tell you to take a hike. But you can ask them. Live was much more controlled. Bedminster, I didn't get a credential. They gave me free tickets. They didn't want to credential me for whatever reason, but they gave me free tickets. Tickets were going for $1, so they saved me $3. They credentialed me in Bolton. And I tried to talk to some people on the range, and they were a little bit more guarded. And I think a lot of them might not have talked anyway because they've gotten hammered by the press. I didn't feel particularly like finger waggy toward these guys. I understand that there's a lot of money being offered to them. And I didn't feel kind of as you know, I didn't feel like as morally, finger waggy as I think a lot of people do. But I understand from their perspective that they've kind of gotten hammered by the press and they wouldn't want to talk. But it's just much harder. Like Liv puts up more barriers to talking. So I didn't end up talking with a lot of the Liv guys. They arranged a couple interviews, and I reached out to agents and talked with a lot of them and got perspective through that. But didn't have the same length and depth of interactions with the Liv players, especially because when I did talk to the Liv players, they were, PR representatives kind of hovering over, and a lot of people might not want to say everything that they might say otherwise.
Well, which is interesting because, like we said earlier, like Bud said earlier, they're carrying themselves as this free-flowing, like we're gonna say whatever we want kind of tour, and yet they're more guarded and protective. It is kind of interesting. Rook here from Scoreboard Addicts does have a good question, just to bring us full circle back to the first question. Do you think Rory should just shut the fuck up about Live Golf and focus on the PGA?
You chatted with him?
He's very smart. He's very educated on this. Like, he knows his stuff. And I think he realizes that he is the voice. Tiger has taken the leadership role, but he's not going to speak out on this. Mm-hmm. Rory's playing every day. Tiger is playing occasionally because of the injuries and the age. So I think Rory realizes that he's kind of the leader of this. And a lot of the players have been frustrated by the speed with which the tour and Jay Monahan have reacted to things or taking the initiative on things. So I think he thinks, probably rightly, that that he should take a leadership role, and I think he's pretty good at it, and people really respect him. He's very likable. What you saw was today or earlier today with Rory saying that Norman should get out. I think everyone on the tour, most people on the tour, agree with that. Greg Norman is a very polarizing figure, let's put it. A lot of people don't like him.
He always has been.
Him and Tiger have long been at odds for like weird, petty, personal reasons. Rory, and I didn't get the sense that Rory is a big fan of Greg Norman's. I think maybe he could stay away from Norman, because I think everyone understands that you're just acting out of. You might be right, but he's just acting out of kind of personal animus. So I think that might not help the cause. I don't know that it hurts it.
No, I mean it's punching down in a sense at this point. I mean, and especially after he already chirped when he passed Norman on the PGA Tour wins list or whatever it was. I mean, and that's where it's like, scoreboard, right? Just don't go anymore. You can even say what you need to say without saying his name directly. You can say, I think there's room for us to get together and talk. We just need an adult in the room to do it. I mean, everybody knows what you're talking about. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Zach, listen, I honestly, if we weren't time constraints, I could pick your brain about this for 5, 6, 7 more hours. And I am going to actually hit you up for that favor at some point. But is there anything that you came into this wanting to share? If not, I had some kind of a parting question or two, and I know Andrew might have.
No, go ahead.
Andrew, anything? You know me, man. If I grab that talking stick, is there anything that you came in here dying to know?
Man, you are on fire tonight. Go for it.
Not on fire. I'm just very much awakened because I'm standing next to greatness.
You're woke.
Easy, kiddo. Easy. I'm 40. I'm too old to be woke. I'm 40 and I got a kid. No, you. At the very beginning of your article, the way you opened it, which beautiful. I mean, the way you structure all your things, kind of cold opening style, is spot on. I'm an Aaron Sorkin fanatic. I'm a freak of his, everything he touches. And what does he do with everything? It's a cold open, boom, right there. But the way you drop just the driving range, and we just kind of talked about a little bit, the differences between the two, but what was the thing that struck you most about just that setting, and where have you seen that elsewhere in your experience reporting? Is there a parallel, or is there a proper analogy in other sports that is like the driving range in a professional golf tournament?
Not totally, because everyone in the sport is usually there at the same time. At least at the majors, all the big players, but even at the non-majors, and even at smaller events, a huge portion of the sport is there. Locker rooms, a baseball clubhouse comes to mind in particular. It's like a high school cafeteria, basically. There are cliques, there's rumors, there's the cool kids, there's different groups team up together, but everyone's not there, and that's really just players. The thing about the driving range, you've got the players, you've got agents, you've got the club manufacturers, you've got the caddies, you've got the reporters, everyone's there. So it is kind of this back room
scene
place. Yeah, it is. I think I haven't covered like F1. Maybe there's a similarity there, but it is unique, at least from what I've encountered.
In locker rooms, you were there with your teammates. On the driving range, you're chumming it up with the competition.
Yeah.
So I mean, therein lies the rub.
Yeah. Max Homa put it to me. It's like it's their office, it's their workplace, and it's like you go to work and you gossip around the water cooler or wherever you gossip on Slack, whatever it is, because it's your workplace. This is what you do, and it's important to you, and so it's the same for them. They're but human, so they're gonna chatter and chirp and gossip as much as anyone else is, maybe more because there's more money at stake.
Was there anybody funnier than Max Homa that you ran into?
He was probably the funniest.
He's a trip.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
to use an 80s term.
Yeah.
Good God,
big fan of Max Homa.
80s. Listen, Andrew, go.
I was just gonna say now. So what's next, Zach? Are you continuing down the golf road, or is it another sport topic, or are you gonna completely switch gears into something else?
We'll see. I'm still kind of trawling around. It'll probably be another sports topic. Probably won't be golf. I need a break from golf for a little while. I'll play. I don't need to write about it for a little while.
I was about to say, and it wasn't just golf. And again, go read the piece in the New Yorker, just Google New Yorker, Zach Helfand live and Trump, and it's going to pop up there for you. Or go to our Twitter and you'll find it there. It's not just golf. It is so golf, but louder to be cliche about it. But when you layer in there, like you said, a Trump rally on top of a golf competition, and then there's the geopolitical aspect of everything. And like you said, maybe this game of let people think what they think because I'm playing up here. It's a fascinating topic. And topic, I use that word kind of gingerly because like you said, there's some moral layers to this. There's some ethical layers to this. There's all sorts of reckonings to be had for this thing to turn out. So we can't thank you enough for A, putting on the piece, B, saying hello and admitting publicly that you knew me. I was very honored and happy to see that.
And for one, you actually proved that all this talk about being a camp counselor wasn't just lies from Bud. You were the proof.
I can attest. He's telling the truth.
So we sincerely appreciate everything, man. If y'all don't check him out, you are on the Twitter at Zach Helfand.
That's Z Helfand. I don't really tweet. I mostly lurk, but I'll take the followers when I can get them.
Perfect. Well, I've been sharing your handle out there the past couple of days, so definitely you can find it on any Divots and Pivots account, any Mr. Mallard's account. You can go find at Z Helfand on all of them.
All right, Andrew, you want to take it home? If you don't stop me, I'll go to the next page and the next page. I need to say this because I do want to catch up with Zach in the near future again and dive more into life post getting hit in the head with a baseball bat.
Well, once again, thank you, Zach, for joining us. I hope all you listening enjoyed the insight. I think Zach has a very unique perspective into everything that's going on here in the golf world, everything that we've been back and forth chatting about. So once again, go check out that article on the New Yorker. And we'll catch you next Tuesday, same place, same time, 8 o'clock every week. We will see you guys and have a great night.